Welcome. If you're here, I'm guessing you've already done quite a bit of work on your nervous system. Maybe you've thawed out a freeze. You're functioning again. You're calmer. And yet, something doesn't feel quite right. You're not shut down anymore, but you're also not exactly connected. You might be going through the motions, doing everything right, but still feeling flat, confused, or kind of checked out. And somewhere in the middle of all that, you might catch yourself wondering, is this what safety feels like? If you've had that thought, I want to say two things. Let's talk about something that no one really tells you. When safety finally starts to arrive in your system, it doesn't always feel good. In fact, sometimes it feels weird, dull, suspicious, like something's kind of off, but you can't quite name what it is. And if that's been your experience, I really want you to hear this. That's not a sign something's wrong. It's actually a sign your system is trying to figure out if this new state can be trusted. See, for a lot of us, safety isn't familiar. We learn to live in high alert or low shutdown. We've adapted to tension, performance, or numbness as our baseline. So when things start to slow down, when our breath settles, our shoulders drop, or we're suddenly not scanning the room the way we used to, our system doesn't always recognize that as good. It registers it as new, and new is not always welcome. Sometimes safety can feel boring, or lonely, or even flat, especially if you grew up in chaos or spent years navigating unpredictable environments. If your system learned that being kept on kept you connected or safe, then calm might feel like disconnection. So it makes sense that when your body starts doing something different, when it softens a little, when it stops bracing, you might not recognize that as safety. You might even try to make the feeling go away just because it's unfamiliar. This is where a lot of people get stuck, not because they're not healing, but because they've never had a chance to learn what actual safety feels like in their body. And that's not something you can think your way into. It's something your system learns slowly through real lived experience. That's the work we're doing here. Not pushing for peace or forcing calm, but getting curious about what's happening underneath. And if you've started asking that question, could this be it? but still feel unsure, you're not alone. This in-between stretch can be confusing, especially if you've already done a fair amount of healing work. You're back in your life. You're functioning. You're present enough to show up, keep commitments, maybe even enjoy parts of your day. But something still doesn't feel quite right. And here's where it gets tricky. From the outside, it might look like regulation. You seem calm and composed, like you're doing all the right things, but a lot of what passes for regulation is actually adaptation. And what I want to say clearly is that adaptation is not failure. It's brilliant. It's what helped you get through what was once too much. It's your nervous system doing its best to keep you safe with the tools it had. But these adaptations weren't built for safety. They were built for survival. And that means they're still shaped by old patterns, old wiring that hasn't yet learned what it means to truly land in the present. For some people, adaptation looks like managing everything all the time, staying productive, being on, always anticipating what needs to happen next. For others, it's about keeping the peace, making things easier for everyone else, showing up politely without taking up too much space. These patterns can be deeply ingrained, so much so that we mistake them for who we are. But underneath them, there's often this quiet tension, or a kind of emotional hesitance that doesn't fully let you settle. And if you're here in this space where you're no longer shut down, but you're not quite at ease, you're not doing anything wrong. You're likely in a transitional phase, one where the system is still trying to decide what's real and what's safe. It's kind of like thawing out after being in the cold for too long. If you've ever come in from the freezing cold without gloves, you know the feeling. First, your hands are numb and they don't feel like much at all. But once the warmth hits, it doesn't always feel good right away. It might sting or ache, and you start to feel everything at once. The discomfort makes you wonder if something's wrong. But it's not wrong. It's just sensation returning. That's the territory we're in right now. You're not frozen anymore, but you're also not fully grounded in safety. You're still warming up. You're adjusting. And your system needs time to make sense of that shift. So if you feel unsure or emotionally off balance, or like you're still waiting for something to drop, it doesn't mean you're stuck. It means you're re-entering, and your system is learning to orient to something new. This is an uncomfortable but necessary step in rebuilding trust with your own body. It doesn't mean the work isn't working. It means the work is starting to land. Let's talk about the difference between what feels safe and what actually is safe. Because when you're in this in-between phase, out of freeze, but not quite connected, it's easy to confuse the two. False safety often looks like calm on the outside, but comes with strings attached. You might notice it when you feel okay, as long as everything else is going according to plan. Or you keep the peace, even if it means disconnecting from yourself. Possibly you show up, smile, stay pleasant, but leave feeling tense or completely drained. are you feel in control, but only by staying one step ahead of potential conflict. These strategies aren't mistakes. They probably worked really well for a long time, but they came at a cost. The effort to maintain them keeps your system in a subtle stage of vigilance. Real safety, by contrast, has room in it. Room to breathe, room to speak up, room to not know. It's the sense that you can be in your body even when something is uncomfortable, without needing to abandon yourself or manage the moment. And if you're sitting there thinking, oh, I think I've been calling this safety, but it's actually control, stay with me. That realization is an opening, not a problem or a failure. It's your system starting to recognize there's a deeper kind of support available, one that doesn't rely on effort. That's the kind of safety we're working toward. Not the kind that depends on getting everything right, but the kind that lets you exhale, even if nothing's perfect. That's the kind that lets you stay connected to yourself without having to manage the room. Okay. So now that we've talked about the difference between real and false safety, let's look at what actually helps. And I want to be honest with you. This is the point where a lot of people expect a magic button. Like, just tell me the thing to do so I can feel safe now. But the truth is, we're not trying to achieve safety. We're giving your system a new experience, one that it might not fully trust yet. That's okay. Let me tell you about someone I worked with. I think a lot of you will relate. She was one of those people who hold it all together. The reliable one. The one who took care of everyone. Did all the right things. And she told me, I'm not shut down anymore. I'm functioning. I'm feeling more. But I still feel like if I stop doing everything, everything's just going to fall apart. It wasn't anxiety or overthinking. It was more like this deep internal rule that said, if I stop, it won't be safe. So I offered her something I often ask in sessions. I said, what if I helped carry this with you? Just a little. Or if it's not me, if I'm not the right person, and you could let someone hold even one part of this, what would feel okay to let go of first? There'd always be this dramatic pause, this big hesitation where her system kind of did a mini freak out because it was thinking, I don't know if I can trust that. For her, like a lot of us, it really had been true in her experience that if she didn't do it, it wouldn't get done. And her nervous system learned to hold everything because it had to. She didn't feel safe letting go, not even a little bit. But I kept asking, and then one day she finally said, okay, maybe I'll give you the part that's tired. And that's when I saw the shift. Her breath dropped, her shoulders relaxed. It wasn't a huge difference, but it was definitely noticeable. And I could see that her system was finally considering the possibility that it didn't have to hold it all anymore. So that's what this work looks like. It's not always these big emotional releases or lightning bolts of clarity. It often is small shifts where the body starts to feel. Think maybe I don't have to do it all alone anymore. From there, we start offering the system more of that. And it doesn't need to be complicated. Sometimes it's about imagining someone has your back. are asking, what would feel like enough support right now? Not perfect, not overwhelming, just enough. Or even putting your hand to your chest and telling yourself, I'm here. You don't have to hold this all by yourself. These practices aren't about self-soothing in a performative way. They're about creating small, honest moments of contact with yourself that doesn't require effort. A felt sense that says you get to be supported, even now. So if you recognized some of yourself in that story, or felt something stir while listening, that's already part of the work. You don't have to rush into doing anything with it. But it might be worth asking, what would support look like if it didn't depend on holding everything together? That question can be a starting point. And from here, I want to leave you with something important. It's one thing to understand all of this, what safety is, what it isn't, how your system learned to adapt. But understanding isn't the same as experiencing. And here's why that matters. When you're learning something new, it's the prefrontal cortex that's active, the thinking, planning, analyzing part of the brain. But when we're working with survival patterns like freeze, shut down, fawn, or overfunctioning, those are stored deeper in the brain and body. And those parts don't shift through thinking alone. They shift through experience. This is why somatic work matters. It gives your system a new reference point, not a concept, but a moment it can actually feel. A breath, a gesture, a pause. Your body can meet without pressure. And that's the beginning of real safety, a shift your body can start to trust. So if something in today's talk landed with you, or if you're thinking, okay, I get this, but I still don't really feel it, I'd encourage you to try the companion video. It's short, gentle, and it's here to help you experience what we've been talking about, not just understand it. You'll find the link just below. Until then, go gently and remember, your body is always communicating with you. All we need to do is pause and listen.